Does anyone know how to break up with another guy? In college, I started hanging out with someone from high school. He quickly started to annoy me, and he wasn't cool or interesting, but I kept having to hang out with him because he gave me rides. Um, but he would only talk about drugs, and he would specifically steer every conversation towards drugs, and that was super annoying. We could be talking about baseball, and then he would start talking about how one specific baseball player used drugs, and that was annoying. And then he would cock block me all the time. I would be hanging out with a lady, and he would still be around us when we wanted some privacy, and we'd be like, hey dude, like, we kind of want to just hang out alone, but he would still not get the message. He would always invite himself to stuff that I was planning with other people. I'd talk about like, oh, getting lunch with two guys, like making plans for that, and he would be like, oh, when are you guys going? And it would be super awkward. And then he would text me like 10 times in a row, knowing that it annoyed me. So he would text, hey, then another message, how you doing? What are you up to? And I always hated it because at that time I didn't have my phone on silent, or I just didn't let any text messages go unanswered. And so my phone would be like blowing up. And so that annoyed me. And then he would complain about like situations without having a solution. I would say, hey, let's go to class early. And then we would get to class early and we'd just be like sitting there, right? And he would complain about wanting to go somewhere else, but he wouldn't come up with a better place to go to. And then he started doing coke, and I knew that he would try to get me to do coke eventually, right? But I think he started doing coke as I started realizing that he was annoying, so that didn't really bother me. I think he just started to annoy me as he started doing coke. And then finally, the two things that bothered me the most were that, or no, the one thing that bothered me the most is he peed right next to me at the urinal when he didn't have to, and I found that very weird. It's very weird. Don't ever do that, right? So once the semester ended, I stopped talking to him. He would text me, and I wouldn't answer. Then school started again, and we had the same friends, so I had to kind of avoid those friends, and I never brought it up just in case something happened. And then about 3 weeks into the semester, there was this event in the quad, and I decided to check it out, and there was a huge crowd, and I'm making my way through this crowd, and at the other end of the crowd, he's there, right? So we actually make eye contact, and but the thing is, I don't change my facial expression, or I don't acknowledge him at all. So what I did was I snapped my fingers together, and I made it seem like, oh yeah, I forgot something. And then I stopped walking, I put my hood on, I turned around, and I started walking away. And I did a little zigzag, like I went left and I went right, and then I started walking straight again. And I did this zigzag was so weird because I went to a school in a city, so there was no reason for me to zigzag. Like, he didn't have a gun or anything, and that doesn't mean he couldn't follow me still. It even means that he was able to follow me a little more if he wanted to follow me, because what it looked like was me just going left and then going right and then walking straight. So it looked super weird if you just like were watching me, which I thought was pretty funny. And that's where I fucked up. He hadn't realized at that time that I was avoiding him. But then he started to realize that I was avoiding him. Um, yeah. He started talking to our mutual friends, and he was telling them that he's like, yeah, I think Heisenberg is avoiding me, right? And then I had to deflect with those friends because they would ask me questions about it, and that got super annoying. If I had just interacted with him for like 2 seconds, just said, "Hey, how you doing?" That would have thrown him off the avoiding trail, and it wouldn't have been clear to him because, remember, this is a cokehead, so things aren't as they seem with them. They're paranoid, right? And then eventually, after a few weeks, he would text me every once in a while, but I wouldn't respond. And so he realized that I was avoiding him, and he stopped talking to me. Yeah. But before he realized that I was avoiding him, I put his number in my phone as DNA, do not answer, because I might accidentally answer one of his calls or one of his text messages, especially if I just deleted his number. But if I had DNA, my phone is literally telling me, do not answer this call. So that helped me to avoid him. And then I had one interaction with him a few months after all of that. He texted me and he offered me a ride to a party because someone at the party called me before that and was like, hey, where's Heisenberg? We should get him over here. Yeah, but I didn't answer. So yeah, that's how guys break up with each other.